everybody, I'm Sarah, Lonesome Glory, and today we are going to talk about the First Timer's Guide to BreyerFest for parents of horse crazy kiddos. And we're going to do that while I open both of my Collectors Club appreciation boxes. So let's get started. This coming BreyerFest will be my 23rd year attending. My mom and dad and I started off in 2001 going together. We flew a couple of years, we drove a few more years, and have been going ever since. Since my dad passed away in 2015, my Aunt Linda has been joining us. So I'm fairly confident in giving some tips and tricks for first timers, especially parents. I have consulted with my mom on some of these tips, so you're getting it from both my perspective as someone who has been to a ton of these BreyerFests and from the perspective of my mom, who was the parent of a horse crazy child who grew into a horse crazy adult. All right, so I have my first CCA box over here. I have not opened these. There's 4 different glossies we could get. I desperately want the Mojave glossy. That's the Fireheart. That's why I have 2 boxes. I would like him. Battlefield Angel would also be excellent. So my first tip for parents of horse crazy kids who have decided to take those kiddos to BreyerFest is to pack up and be prepared to pack up again. So one of the things that we learned really quickly as we were flying to BreyerFest was that we bought too many horses. This is going to happen to you. It's okay. You might as well just go with it. Your kiddo, you're going to buy way too many horses to fit in your suitcase or to fit in your car or to fit anywhere. It's all right. It happens to all of us. The excitement of having all of those horses available and people to talk to about them, it runs away with you. So knowing that, tip number 1, if you are flying, pack a suitcase within a suitcase so you have an extra for the flight back. If you are driving, bring a tote, bring a box, bring something and fill it with bubble wrap and Walmart sacks or whatever you can use to package up your horses to get them home. Or be aware that Breyer does have people from UPS who set up at the Clarion Hotel. That's if you see people referring to the CHIN, but UPS sets up both at the Clarion and at the horse park, and they will be happy to help you pack up your models and ship them home. Of course, that's UPS, so it's kind of expensive, which is why maybe best practice would be to bring that extra suitcase or bring an extra carry-on so you can keep them close to you. It just really depends on how overboard you go in buying at your first time. It happens. We had to buy suitcases 2 times in a row because after the first year, we still didn't bring enough extra luggage. It just happens. Don't be embarrassed. It happens to everybody. The other thing to think about is saving up for all of those horses you're going to buy. You're going to find some deals. You're going to find some stuff that you just have to have. Your kids especially are going to find things they have to have. And start saving now. As a matter of fact, it would be better if you would hop in your time machine, go back to last year and start saving then, just to make sure that you are ready to go. So one of the things that my family did, which I always appreciated as, a kid who wanted to go to BreyerFest and buy all the horses, was my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my other members of the family would send money with either me or with mom and dad. But they would send me with money and tell me to pick out what I wanted. And then when I brought it back, I gave it to them so they could wrap it up for Christmas. I was never sad that I didn't have a surprise because I got exactly what I wanted. It's a thought. It might not work with your family. That might be something that just won't happen. But my family enjoyed it. It worked out well for me. The other thing to remember, and this is more important, I think, for the parents, you're going to have to balance cash versus credit. It's a little more difficult to do that now than when I first started going because Breyer has changed from accepting whatever kind of money you showed up with to being cardless. And most of the Holiday Inn vendors are still cash only. So you've got to be prepared to have both of those. It is a tough situation. I am not going to lie to know that you need this much for the park, but if your math is even a little off. Breyer does provide, or they have brought on, reverse ATMs for the horse park where you can put cash on your card to use it to pay at BreyerFest. And the Holiday Inn has a couple of ATMs, just the normal kind. The problem with both of those is they cost money. They charge fees. It doesn't matter where you bank or where you're from. They're going to charge you some fees to do that. I don't like paying for those fees, so I try to balance out such that I have enough cash to get by and also enough money to pay at the Breyer store. It's something to think about. I can't really tell you how much you need to bring. That comes down to what you're able or you want to spend. But it's something to keep in mind as you're going about this. Sorry, I'm meant to be getting horses out of these boxes too. The other thing to remember, folks, if you are traveling and especially if you're not big travelers all the time, make sure that your financial institution, the one in charge of your credit card or your debit card, knows that you are traveling. The thing to remember is Breyer is a New Jersey-based company. They are using, or at least mostly, they are using New Jersey-based equipment in Kentucky. So your card is going to show you making purchases for hotels, for dinner, for gas, for whatever in Kentucky. And then they're going to show a charge in New Jersey. This pops up as fraud a lot of times, or suspected fraud. And companies that are good at catching that have a tendency to shut down your card until they get that resolved. So if you call them and tell them you're traveling, you can tell them that if they see charges from New Jersey between Thursday and Sunday, leave them alone. Those are legitimate charges. We found this out the hard way. We had to call Breyer. We had to call multiple times. While we were at BreyerFest, we had to call multiple times to tell our bank that we promise we're the ones doing these charges. So just remember that. That's kind of an important little extra piece. Right, I have a couple of models in here that I wasn't sure what they were because I ordered some of the Elements random shipped classics. So I'm pretty excited to see what I have for those. That also leads me to my second major tip for BreyerFest for everybody, and specifically for parents. Plan ahead. You absolutely 100% cannot do everything that Breyer has to offer. It used to be, back when I started going, that there were fewer events. It was still a lot to try and go and do and see everything, but it wasn't nearly what it is now. In any given moment at BreyerFest, you'll have workshops going on, you'll have seminars going on, you have the film festival that they bring in, you've got equine demonstrations in the covered arena, you have vendors everywhere, there's guest horses, there's guest horse signings, there's guest horse pictures with the various folks, and that just only encompasses Breyer. That's not the rest of the horse park. And then Breyer also has the Artisans Gallery, the swap meet, and all of the vendor rooms at the Clarion. It is busy. It is a lot. What I would suggest doing is get with the kiddos, figure out the things they're most excited about, the things that you would like to see, and try to make sure that you know when those are, but don't go overboard. Just pick the things you absolutely have to do and make sure you get to do them. If you try and book out every second of your day, but you won't get to have as much fun. Plans in the heat in Kentucky change again, and then they change a third time, and then they change a fourth time. So long as you make sure you're at those things that you really have to do on time, you're gonna have a much nicer BreyerFest. The other thing to remember is, even when you are picking out those must-see, must-do items, plan for some breaks in between those things. Everything that Breyer has set up at the Kentucky Horse Park, for the most of it, is outdoors in July in Kentucky. I think I made this point ad nauseum in my first timer's guide that I did last year, Kentucky is hot and humid in July. Kentucky has always been hot and humid in July. It will never not be hot and humid in Kentucky in July. And if you've got little kids, especially, younger than that 8 or 10, or I don't honestly know where that line should be, but if you've got little kids and teenagers, it's going to be miserable for both of them at different points. Make sure you plan to go to some of the events that are inside, or that you take a break and go wander around the visitor center at the horse park, or you go through the Museum of the Horse or the Saddlebred Museum. All of those things are available to you. And while they aren't going to be just crisp ice cold, it is cooler. It is a little nicer, so you can be kind of refreshed before you go back out and spend your time in the arena. Sometimes you need to just take some time and sit in that covered arena and watch the equine demonstrations. Breyer always puts together an amazing lineup that's going on all day while people are shopping around the concourse. Lisa, he's really nice and shiny. But they have all of these really cool equine demonstrations going on, and while it's not air conditioned, even remotely, don't hope for it, they have a company called Big Ass Fans with the donkey that have these giant fans in the arena. And while sitting under them is never going to make you not hot, it does help cut that heat and it gives you a little bit of a break. So make sure that you do that. Make sure you plan some of those times to give yourselves a little bit of a wind down so that it's not just an exhausting weekend. Next thing is, and I know I've said this before, I will say it again, use the shuttles. Breyer has started doing shuttles not just, sorry, I had to get the little ones here. Not just from the park to the Clarion, but from different locations around the park all the way around. The All-Tech Arena is a very long walk. It is an even longer walk in the heat and humidity. The shuttles are there for a reason. I will say, and I talked to some people about the shuttles last year, including some people who volunteered, making sure that people knew what shuttle to get on. The shuttles are busy. People are using them, which is fantastic. But sometimes they're full. And sometimes they're going to be full and you might have to wait for a couple of them. It's hot. Everybody's patience is thin. You want to get sitting down. You want to get going. I get it. I get frustrated with that kind of thing as well. Just remember while you're there that the folks who are manning those stations and telling you which shuttle will take you where you want to go, they're volunteers. They're spending their time to help you out while missing some of the things they might want to do because they're all collectors. Those folks that wear the little staff shirts, with the exception of Breyer usually has polos for paid people from Breyer. But the folks who get the ambassador shirts are volunteers. They're not getting paid. They are getting a model at the end of the weekend, but they're taking up their vacation time to help you. So try to show a little patience with them and be understanding if those shuttles are busy. I will say they were running pretty well like clockwork. They were full. So try to remember that and plan a little bit ahead and try not to make it so you have to rush at a shuttle. It'll be better for you. It'll be better for our volunteers. The bus drivers will like it better. It'll just be nice all the way around. On the subject of shuttles, do not try to park at the Clarion, the CHIN, the Chen, the Holiday Inn, the Host Hotel, however you want to call it. Don't try to park there. The Breyer shuttle will take you from any location or certain locations in the Kentucky Horse Park. You can leave your car there. They have their own police force. You can leave your car there. They will take you back to the Clarion and then drive you back to your car at the end of the night. It is much, much, much easier to park at the Kentucky Horse Park than it is to park at the Clarion. We stay at the Clarion and we still have a hard time parking, and that's our overnight place to be. So what you've got to remember is the Clarion parking lot was not made to house tens of thousands of people. And parking there is an Olympic sport that is not for the faint of heart. This is why I'm telling you to use the shuttles. I understand people can come from big cities, or you go to giant music festivals or any other place where large groups of people congregate, and you think, you know what, I got this. It's not that hard. It is. You are not prepared to deal with the ruthlessness of a model horse collector who has been baking in the heat all day at the Kentucky Horse Park and is now headed out to search for her own holy grail at the Clarion. You're not prepared for it. We're a special breed of focused. Use the shuttles, save lives. That's where I fall on that. I'm joking a little bit there, but seriously, the parking situation is ridiculous at the Clarion. There's no need to even attempt it. Park at the horse park, have them shuttle you. You will be happier. Your kids will be happier. There is nothing more frustrating. There was nothing more frustrating for me as a 10, 11, however old I was when we first started going, year old child, in the back seat of the van trying to get turned into the Clarion, which is a nightmare because everything's backed up. And I'm bouncing up and down because I can see the horses in the windows and I want to go shop, but we can't get parked. So now we have to drive around the parking lot while I'm essentially vibrating in the back seat. It's not fun. The horse park shuttle turns right in, drops you at the entrance. And I'll tell you, if they drop you at the front entrance as opposed to the back entrance, you're going to be about 30 feet from room 128, the pineapple room. So swing by and see me. Shameless plug. Absolutely shameless plug. So I'm going to open the last of these mini Winnies, which I'm hoping will at least be not that black and white one again, because we've seen two of them. And then I'm going to swap out boxes because I still have another. Oh my God, there's 3 of these. Guys, the curse is back. 3 of the little drafters. Oh well, he's pretty cute. All right, I'm going to swap out boxes and then we will talk about the next tip. All right, this last batch of tips is really just some very specific model horse etiquette. Now, it might be useful in other arenas and in other places, but I've tried to bring this down for model horse events and BreyerFest in particular. I'm not trying to tell anyone, while I'm talking about this, my disclaimer, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to parent their child. I'm just giving you some tips that are kind of common practice and kind of accepted to help make the weekend a little easier, especially if you've never been to something like this before. So the first rule is no touchy. Just like Cusco from Emperor's New Groove, no touchy. That really comes down to when you're working with vendors or when you're in shows or wherever you're going, don't touch the models without permission. There's going to be vendors in the Clarion in the rooms. There's going to be vendors at the Clarion at the swap meet and the Artisans Gallery. Out at the horse park, there's a ton of vendors, and some of them aren't gonna have any problem with you picking up a horse and looking at it. As a matter of fact, that's probably most of them. However, some of these are really expensive and really delicate, and some of the ones that look really sturdy might not be. So it's always just best to ask permission and get told yes, and usually if folks don't want you picking up, they will move it around for you to show you the other sides and show you different angles. It's just a polite thing. It's not something that's going to be, people are going to get angry, at least for the most part, with the vendors, but we do appreciate that. But the vendors are not the only place where there's models on display. There are going to be model horse shows throughout the weekend. There's one that's Breakables, I think is still on Wednesday or Thursday. The BreyerFest Live and the BreyerFest Children and Youth shows are going on. They're open to the public. You could go walk in and see the show at the Alltech Arena. Absolutely do not touch any horses on any table at all during horse shows. Vendors are a little chiller about it or a little more chill about it because we're trying to sell things. People at shows are showing off their most exciting pieces of their collection. And some of them are really, really expensive. Some of them are really, really fragile. And some of them are just the best loved horse that these people own. So just to make sure you don't have, I bought a Collecta snake. Sorry if you guys don't like snakes. Try not to get into a situation where something could get damaged, and just know, you know, no touching while you're in the rooms. Once you ask a vendors are going to tell you to touch, but just know that if you walk through those horse shows, put your hands in your pockets, you know, fold them in front of you, do something to make sure that you're not tempted to reach out and touch. And since this video is for parents, make sure that your kids know that that shouldn't happen. It's going to make everybody happier in the long run. Another thing to remember, and this is a big deal because BreyerFest has gotten so big, I just called this crowd control. You're going to be walking through the covered arena at the horse park, which the concourse around there is jam-packed. If you have your bubble of space that's actually larger than you are as a person, you're really lucky. Everybody is packed in. Everybody is trying to see everything, trying to get to vendors, trying to go this way and that way, and generally all directly in front of wherever you're trying to walk. It's fine. It's a crowd. We are all going to this prepared for there to be a crowd. The thing to remember is to just try to be polite while you're moving through the crowd. BreyerFest is an exciting time, not just for the kids, but for the adults. I get to go see my best friends in the world at this event, and I get to see them once a year. I want to get to where they are. I want to get to where we're meeting. I want to see this. I want to see that. I want to look at these vendors. Everybody's excited, and your kiddos are going to be super excited. And that is amazing because we like to share that excitement. Just remember that when you're in a big crowd like this, stopping in the middle of everything is not great. It causes a traffic jam. It will likely get you bumped into, not on purpose, of course, but that happens when you just stop in the middle of a crowd. You're also way likely to get hurt or get accidentally tripped or otherwise stymied if you're running through that concourse. So try to remember when you're in the concourse or when you're at the Holiday Inn in the halls, because those get Holiday Inn. The Clarion in those halls, it's crowded. You are just, you know, one right after the other. Bubbles are not a thing. Try not to run up and down the halls if you know, that's just not a good thing to do. It's too crowded for that. Try not stopping in the middle of the walkway. My family and I call that maximum aisle blockage, where you kind of stop and chat with your buddies and you're taking over all of the space that people want to walk. It's going to happen. It's going to happen that you're going to see it. It's going to happen that you're going to be part of it. Let's just try to keep it to a minimum. That way we can all really enjoy everything we are there to enjoy. Okay. I really need to actually hold up these horses, don't I? Because they're here in this box. Because I am on my last section. And that is tips for both you and for your kids. Ask questions. You're going to have vendors. You're going to have veteran attendees like I am. You're going to have artists. And they are going to be thrilled to death to answer your questions about their models, about their art, about the things they have for sale, about everything. So if you're wandering around at the horse park and you don't know where to go, that's okay. Ask somebody with the ambassador shirt or ask someone who looks like they know what they're doing. If they can't help you, they might be able to point you in the right direction. If you do luck into a veteran person who's been there a while, will usually give you really good directions. I'm actually getting pretty good at giving directions around the Clarion Hotel, which is a labyrinth of a hotel. And I do have a video about that I did last year. I don't know what kind of changes they've made because I know they're doing construction, but it was up to date as of when we left Kentucky last year. So check that out to get more tips for how to get around. But that's the thing, is just ask those questions. You're going to see horses that are going to cost more than my first car. It's okay to ask why the horse costs that much. Just do it politely. You might see a horse that has been painstakingly painted hair by hair by an artist who spent hours upon hours of their time and their effort into making it look so realistic. And it's going to have a high price on it. And it's okay to ask them why they chose that, because then they can tell you about their art and about their work. If we're selling original finished models that are kind of pricey, I'm happy to tell you, especially if I've got something for sale and you don't know why it's X amount, well, I'll be able to tell you that was a limited edition from this year. It's hard to find. There were only X number produced. Just be polite and ask the questions in a polite and information-seeking way. And you're going to have people willing to give you way more information than you actually want. And that goes for when you're shopping at the Clarion or at the park or wherever. If you want to barter on a horse, if you want to trade, if you want a bargain, if you want to work with people on the price, ask. There is absolutely no harm in asking for a discount or asking for a deal or asking for a trade. Again, just go into it knowing that sometimes people are going to say no, and it could be for many, many reasons, but some people just don't trade. They're looking to clear out collections. Some people have things priced such that they don't want to reduce the price further. As long as you're willing to hear and accept a no, feel free to ask. I know for sure that in room 128, the pineapple room, which will be me and Mom and Aunt Linda, I think I've already said that once, but might as well get it out there again. We love to wheel and deal and bargain and make trades and work with folks. And if you've got a kiddo who wants to try their hand at making a trade or asking for a discount, we're happy to help them. Like we're happy to listen and let them kind of take their time and ask those questions. But it's also okay if your kiddo's a little too shy to actually ask for the trade or ask for the discount themselves. We'll be able to use mom or dad or parent or guardian or human with them as a go-between. We're okay with that too. We don't want to make them ask in order to make a deal, but we do love working with young collectors and helping them kind of get used to what that part of the hobby is about. The squeaky noise you're hearing is Khaleesi, who's decided to join me, and we'll see if she stays on the ground this time. So I have one more model in the box and exactly one more thing to talk about. And that is the last tip, which is enjoy BreyerFest. You are at an event that is reasonably unique in that everyone is there because we all love the same thing. We all love tiny plastic or resin or china models of horses and other equines. We are all huge horse nerds. We're all huge Breyer nerds. There are people who are nerds for other brands or other types of horses. And we're all there together to just get to enjoy this amazing event and enjoy each other's company during the event. I did run all of my advice that I've given out in this video past my mother. I told her that it was going to be advice for the parents of horse crazy kids who are coming to BreyerFest for the first time. She added bits and pieces to what I've already told you and asked me to make sure certain things were clear. I will say the first time I asked her for advice for parents who are bringing their kids to BreyerFest for the first time, her first response was, "Don't, you'll never be able to stop." That is exactly how it worked out for me. Mom and Dad took me in 2001 and we're still here. I was 11, I think, when we first went. So it doesn't go away. She does have the good advice. She did give me a couple of other little things to remember that she wanted to make sure that you guys knew came from her. She said, first off, remember to be patient, that this is a huge event. There are lines upon lines upon lines. Things are crowded. Things are busy. Everybody's trying to get to see everything and do everything. And she said the best thing to remember is that even though it is hot and even though it is sticky and even though it's busy, just to remember to kind of hold that patience, especially with the folks who are volunteering their time, or the folks who are working for Breyer, or the other vendors, anything like that. So I thought that was really good advice. It's really hard to do, especially if you're a young kid, to be patient, which is why the advice is more for the adults. Make sure your kiddos know that that's how it's going to be. It's going to be busy. It's going to be crowded. So just kind of model patience for them. The other thing she said, and I hadn't thought of this at all until she pointed it out. She said, you've got to prepare as parents to be utterly overwhelmed. BreyerFest is a lot. That's my ballot bill. I made it pretty. I really did want this one, so this is pretty cool. So she talked about the first time we went to BreyerFest, and we went to the Holiday Inn, which is now the Clarion, and that's why you hear me refer to it both ways, that she and my dad were walking into these rooms, and it's a weird feeling walking into people's hotel rooms to buy things. And she just remembered being utterly overwhelmed by all of the people that were doing this, and the just sheer number of models and everything that was going on. It was just a lot to take in. And she says that as the parent. I remember as the kid being like a kid in a candy store, but this time it's plastic horses, so it's so much better. And it's a lot. It is overwhelming. We laugh now that we've been doing this for so many years. When we see parents walk into our room at the Clarion with their kids in tow, we can tell the first timers, because they all have that same, just wide-eyed, uncomprehending look. And you might see us, if you come by the room, you might see us, figure out that, oh, this is your first time here, isn't it? And we've gotten pretty good at it. But that's because everybody gets so overwhelmed. And that's okay. Just know that the hobby is overwhelming to see from that side of it as a first timer. But you're dealing with people who all want to be there because we all love the same thing. It's a community. It really, truly is. And honestly, I can't wish for anything better than to be part of this community. So remember that if you have questions, we'll be in 128. We're happy to answer them. But that's the end of the video. I got both of my collector's appreciation horses. And while I didn't get Mojave, that's okay, because I got Battlefield Angel and this beautiful Appaloosa. So those are two awesome picks. We're getting into BreyerFest time now for me. I am working on multiple other videos. A couple of them are going to require me to get some more information, like my surprise horse conspiracy video that will be coming out. I have been working on it. I just don't quite have all the information I need to be able to put it out. I posted in the community tab for if you have questions you want me to answer about BreyerFest. I would love to be able to answer them for you. If I get enough questions, I might do a whole video of, answering your questions about BreyerFest. If I don't, I might just respond to them in the community tab. If you have ideas for things you want to see or topics about BreyerFest you would like to hear me talk about, please let me know in the comments or send me a message on Instagram. And today, since we're talking about the Collectors Club Appreciation horses, tell me which one of the Collectors Club Appreciation horses was your favorite. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. But then she gave me, that's Khaleesi pawing at the window. Yeah, I hear you. The whole world hears you. Okay.